So, good afternoon everyone. Welcome to Intro to Red Team. Hindi na animation. Anyway, so I'm Mon. The janitor, some calls me Pogi. So okay lang din. Kahit ano. But this is more of intro talk. It's not as technical as the Cellular Assault Village. So for those of you who are starting up or figuring out how you want to get into red teaming or maybe just trying bits and pieces of InfoSec and figuring out saan kayo magiging magaling, and this might be a talk for you. So for those of you who don't know me, I broke into a lot of government, banks, utilities, corporate IT infrastructure, legally of course. Got a lot of horror stories on how to take over an account using just a username, sa mga mobile banking, bypass the OTPs, take control of dams, via Wi-Fi network. So it depends. Maybe some stories tayo sa dulo if we still have time. But officially, I am a CTO for Red Rock IT Security, so we're a local service provider for security requirements of various. We started with financial institutions, and then eventually we were tasked to get into other verticals. And for the most part, if you have experience or so a breach in the past, 50% of the time we're doing yung incident response in the background. We're just not exposed. Discussing red teaming, that for the most part of my last 4 years, I would say I'm more into digital forensics and incident response, but it does help. Whatever we found on the FIR, we pick it apart, what tooling, what techniques they use, and hopefully feed it back to the red team. And vice versa, what the red team does, we feed it back to the blue team to make sure that they are detecting and they are able to prevent more attacks or that actors digging deep into the network. I do teach in UP Diliman and LaSalle. Most likely I'll be teaching in AIM by next semester. So if you want to catch some lectures there, depends. Varying technical difficulties yung courses. AIM is intended for management, so there's still a bit more technical, but it's more of how to manage stuff on security. If you want to go into technical details, so there's the masters in ECE and Tripoli in Diliman, and then masters in computer science, cybersecurity for De La Salle University. And I did have a lot of government consultancy. So this is not yung laway consultancy, na-consultant ako ni Dental. So this is contract signed, and unfortunately I am being brought into the battlefield. And for the main part, since early 2000s, I would say we're two of us, Paul and I, were the main incident responders of the government. So for any breach early on, we're the ones responding on the back. This is a red team talk, and unfortunately, so to speak, there's a lot of how do you say this? It's not an entry-level job, right? Definitely. So you need a lot of fundamentals. So I've been training and collecting certificates for the past decade from various fields in security, from red team to blue team to forensics, and each of every one of these basically contributes to your knowledge on various fields in cybersecurity too. So, agenda. We'll discuss some terminologies, objectives of red teaming, some scoping guidelines, and how do we start a career, and some trainings that I would recommend if you want to really pursue red teaming. And of course, if we still have time, kasi medyo overtime yung previous villages. Not that it's not bad, good yung talk ng Cellular Assault. We'll see if we could inject some horror stories na we encountered in the past. Okay, so start terminologies. We are dealing with a lot of terminologies in our industry. So we got pen test, we got VA, we got vulnerability scanning, management, red team, blue team, the whole rainbows na, nung color. And I don't know if you encounter this, no? Sometimes you'll get a service for vulnerability assessment and penetration testing, and you just got vulnerability scan. No? So on that definition alone, there is some discrepancy. And now it's becoming mainstream, red teaming. You ask for a red teaming, but you most likely don't know what you want yourself. No? So you got a pen test for that matter. So it actually have basically red teaming and pen test major related as with VA. So typically VA would be an input to a PE, and then PE would specifically it's a very specific target. Then you'll get yung red teaming, which totally different objectives. I would say. For the VA, typically the goal is to enumerate all known vulnerabilities. Take note of the word known. And then map it on your threat landscape, minimize the exposure, and hopefully you'll be able to improve your security posture with just a VA scan. So there's a step-by-step process on that. Next, we have pen test. Is basically, I would say maybe a step above VA, wherein you would now be validating the findings of the tool. Because typically, if you run a VA tool, you generate a 300-page report and maybe 90% of it is false positive or not exploitable. So have you seen a report of medium severity, Apache version is so we call that, especially for public report, dead bounty. I need some cash for this, but it's just HP or Apache version. But the proper way to do pen test is you really validate, you exploit a specific vulnerability and then prove that you were able to get in or you were able to crash the service, and that would make you possible vulnerable to confirm vulnerable. And of course, that goal is to report it and make a recommendation on how to fix it. And then hopefully, once you retest after the fix is done, it's not going to show up. So that's a typical pen test life cycle. And basically all of this falls under the umbrella of security assessment. Take note, really, the goal of security is to minimize risk. That's the ultimate goal. We cannot eliminate it. We are making business because we are managing our risks, right? And one thing I want to guide a lot of security teams, especially those starting up or going to security teams, is we cannot be the party pooper on our organization. We cannot be the no guy. Okay, you want to deploy this? No. You want to deploy? I want to use this? No. If you do that, no one would now go to you for help. No? They would just spawn shadow IT and launch services without you even knowing it until it does happen. So if there's a good business risk, and you cannot manage it, and you say no, you need to be able to provide an alternative. Hindi pwedeng walled ka na bawal. So that's not gonna work. And you won't last long, definitely. Magbiwelga yung mga business team against you. So for red team, what we want in contrast to pen test is we want to emulate techniques, tactics, and procedures of real adversaries. Okay? And we basically want to improve yung people, process, technology of the target environment. And there's a saying of Team Medin, the creator of Kerber roasting. If you've done AD testing from Red Siege, Red Team only exists to ensure that the blue team does better. Okay? Kasi I mean, what's the point of penetrating the company if hindi naman sila makahabol for remediation? Diba? It's gonna be the same. And what's the point of generating a highly technical report? No one could understand it, and no one could do anything about it. So it's really, at least, ultimately we're defending the organization, we're defending a system, and that is dapat hindi mawala according to Rendon Labrador, focus. Medyo tayo doon, focus. Kailangan kumanda yung organization natin as intended. So again, we are on a risk reduction business, especially for the InfoSec. So I found this Twitter on how do you explain it in simple terms. So like, what is a threat actor? So if we could analogize it, it's someone who wants to punch you in the face. So I'm sure Hindi naman, no? Marami may galit sa inyo kasi sinakdown yung project nila or something. No? So, let's put it, isang guy na gano'n. Or, inagawa mo yung jowa nila. Meron may galit sa'yo. The threat is actually the punch being thrown, no, against you. Kasi, nag-iisip din naman yung mga threat actors naman, hindi lang sila basta susuntok sa'yo. No? There's legal ramifications. No? But if they could hide themselves as keyboard warriors or what, no? Babanata na kaya. But it could be, there's a threat actor, there's a threat. But yung vulnerability mo is low. Because, let's say, marunong ka ng jiu-jitsu or martial arts for that matter. And maybe train ka sa military, pagpapasok ka sa isang area, di ba? Have a way to talk to everyone that also have a plan to kill them. No? So you are able to defend yourself against it. And that would now fall dun sa risk definition. The risk would be, di ba, yung likelihood of this event occurring. No? So again, if you have a threat and you have no vulnerabilities because you have some controls in place, the likelihood of the risk is reduced. Again, meron pa rin tao may galit sa'yo. It's not gonna get a punch that's gonna get in your face. No? So, but what if there's a threat, but you don't know how to defend yourself, no? So, mataas ngayon yung vulnerability mo. So, that combination is the eventuality of a risk and then you getting damaged. No? So, that's it. And then there's also a term, no, sa dulo, acceptable risk. How willing are you to get punched in the face? No? Or in business, no? How willing are you to get hacked? For that matter, no? I mean, you've heard of these stories like, there's a system that's going to be in production, you need to test it, but this is more of pen test. You need to test it, and every one, from the development to the launch is one month, so that's 4 weeks. And what do you think happens if the development phase gets delayed? Right? Let's say 3 weeks yung intended development, but they are now overrunning. And the business team cannot move the deadline, because the commercials are already there, the publications are already published, everyone is waiting for that launch date, the hotels are booked. Then, what gets thrown? Okay, first thing gets thrown really is process. Right? You have ITIL, you have whatever process you are adhering to, DevOps, it gets thrown out, you just need it to work. And then what schedule gets trimmed? QA and security testing. For the most part, it's gonna give to you Friday afternoons, like, oops, we're gonna launch by Monday, so sorry. Again, it's process now, it gets thrown out. And for the most part, you're gonna be fighting with them that we cannot launch this, we haven't tested it, we will not be able to test it properly. And then you raise the waiver form, right? That if you don't want to move your launch date, sign the waiver that's not properly tested. And kanya-kanyang tawag na ng mga boss yun on how to fix that stuff. Ultimately, what would happen is that system would launch untested, and then you'll do the testing, and then you'll find a critical vulnerability. Now everyone's on fire. No? You launch a mobile banking app with an OTP bypass, and it's in production. So everyone's on the watch mode on when the attack would happen. And guess what? Threat actors, us in Red Team, we all know when a product is launched, tons of vulnerabilities are in there because it hasn't been tested properly. So that's the favorite target. New feature, new app, new APIs. It's probably untested. That's where they're gonna get in, right? And of course, a lot more horror stories on how they fix it by encrypting the data, not realizing that we could intercept it in transit using just basic proxies. So yeah, terms. This is our scoping diagram. Sometimes customers will get to you, right? I want a pen test. I want a red team, and I don't even know what it is. No? So I found this quick diagram on how you would determine what do they really want. Sometimes, I want security testing. You could ask, is it just for compliance and what framework? Then this would be it. It's more of controls audit. Right? And even EU, it's white box basically. Everything is disclosed. But scope is very limited. It's most likely a specific system. If they want full scope, you most likely are looking at a full white box with code review. So code will be open for audit. And then when is red teaming and pen test comes in, it's really on the attack simulation. And I would say pen test would be somewhere here. And red teaming would be a step above. No? But it's a step above pen testing, but they actually have different goals. So they have this ethical hacking maturity model on what the organization would actually need. And when we do scoping for red teaming, we would always ask, where are your old pen test and VA report? Have you actually done it before? And you don't have to show it to us. Because if they're asking for red team and they haven't even done vulnerability assessment, then they're asking the wrong question. They're gonna get burned bad. So again, there is step in process on how to do it. And after that, red team, the next step would actually be purple teaming. This would be a combination now of testing with the blue team. So it's careful. For lack of imagination, they merged blue and red, and got purple. And if you add more colors, probably got to end up with a black team. Then there's the adversary emulation. But sometimes you could mix and match this because the definition is still muddled between them. So VA now, it's basically baseline only. You generally need to know how to walk before you run. Meaning you need to ideally encounter these steps first in your organizations. You cannot demand red team and you haven't again done a proper vulnerability management program or your system haven't been tested properly. Or they would say, oh yeah, we've already done a pen test. And if you see the report, again, it's just a VA scan with rebranded report and then submitted to you, unvalidated findings. So you don't want that. So yeah, again, no, you need to learn to walk before you could run. Okay, but there would be exceptions, of course. We cannot generalize. But these are the typical steps na you would want to encounter on an environment. Now, how about additional scoping? Typically, you would only be allowed to choose any of these two. Right? Do you want a fast and great red teaming engagement? As with any IT projects, this actually applies. Yeah, that's why it's high cost. If you don't have the budget, cheap and fast, you're most likely going to get low quality. Right? But if you want, okay, I don't have much money, but I want still a great testing, right? No, it's going to be a long duration. So you need to mix and match any of this, but this center one is, as the name implies, it's nirvana. It's unattainable. So typically you need to choose between this constraint. And you could explain why does the testing need to be 1 month? Easy explain. We're not just going to run a tool. Red teaming is a lot of manual work. If someone could say that they could automate red teaming, run far. they cannot do it. And most of the issues now we've encountered on our red team is logic issues, especially on apps and APIs. Because they've done VA, they've done pen test, but ultimately they just run a tool. The logic could not be found by those tools. The logic issues like, again, OTP bypass. If you've done mobile testing, just call flow manipulation. Log in, and then something requests an OTP, but the fan transfer API is actually decoupled from the entire system, and you could run directly from it. And worse, I think we've done, just very recent, we have been able to do negative fan transfers. Remember that negative checks? They filter alphanumeric, so that's okay. But when you enter a negative number on the balance on a fan transfer, the basic logic for that app would be, that's on the back end. If I'm transferring money from my account to, let's say, CJ's account, it should be less than or equal to my balance. Guess what? A negative 1 million is less than or equal to my balance. And if you do basic arithmetic, right, deducting a negative number is a credit. And you never thought it would work, but it did. So I don't think it's production, but anyway. Don't look for that back now. So sometimes they'll say that this would actually explain why is red teaming a bit expensive. No? Again, you're not an entry level guy just doing running a tool. You need some experience on doing this. You don't need a lot, but you need some experience with fundamentals. And the duration for red teaming is a bit, I would say, lengthier than pen test. Mas specific, mas targeted yung pen test. And if they still ask, no, why is it expensive, just direct them to someone else. No? Someone would be willing to do it cheaper. No? It's not great. So, ingat na lang. Anyway. Objectives and scoping no, for red team. Again, we want to emulate adversarial objectives. No? So what are they after? Financial theft, definitely. Intellectual property theft, they want a secret formula for your medicine or your vaccine, right? They could get it, they could replicate it. Industrial espionage, they want a new jet engine for your stealth fighter. That's their target, the plans for it, the testing documentation for it, so they would know the limits, they would get that. Reputational hit, they just don't want you, they are a competitor. Any damage against you would mean stock drop, or they could basically close you out. No? Or availability disruption, part of the reputational hit. If you're offline, then chances are people would not trust your organization, they would go to the competitor. Or politically motivated attacks. No? It's, we are in Philippines, so we all know that delineation, not call them any names. Baka ma-attack ako online. And come to think of this, no? A lot of us are targeting domain admin. Diba? That's the goal, Brendan. Good, focus. But that's not always the case. If I'm able to fish a user that has enough access on the SharePoint, that is already a disastrous moment for the organization. And I never need domain admin for that. It's just that they were able to give out very lax permission that enabled that kind of issue. Okay? And to scope no, for red teaming, especially adversarial emulation, there's a guide, no, the unified kill chain. This basically merge cyber kill chain and the MITRE attack chain. No? And what they did was they identified all the steps, no? From reconnaissance, delivery, social engineering, exploitation, until action on objectives. So it's a short paper no, that you could read, and I think this is going to be the basis for a lot of scoping. So, for the most part, no, there are a lot of steps that you could skip, depending on, again, the time constraint, the resource constraint, on what they are after. No? So, sample issues that we are encountering when we're doing red teaming. Initial access. Okay? Let's say I was given a month to do a red teaming. That's a small amount. Typically 3 months yung engagement for this one. But let's say they give you a month for context. And they want a lot of tests done, like the one shown here, from phishing campaign. Either I'm going to send you a malware, which typically is not much of a case anymore. Why? Right? They got sandboxing. You enter a malicious PDF or a malicious Word document with a script, they execute in a sandbox, something goes wrong, it doesn't get delivered to the inbox of the user. Failed. You send a credential harvesting, they have some sort of machine learning AI, they click on a link, it looks like a Gmail login page. Failed. It's not going to get delivered. So, for these reasons, sometimes you would ask for whitelisting. It's not bad, but you need to explain to them that, do you want me to test red teaming engagement and we're going to spend 90% of our time doing initial access? That's not going to be the case. You're not getting your money's worth. Kasi you could always assume that a breach has already occurred. No? So that's the assumed breach scenario. And if they say that, well, I don't think so. No? You just need to do the initial access. That's the pen test part. I would say, create a phishing site, USB drops, malicious payload, stolen devices scenario. No? But typically, we would have a cutoff. That at certain time, if we haven't gained foothold on the organization, we would kick in the assumed breach scenario. So you should have that on that. So if not, You might end the red teaming, and if the organization has good controls and the people have good security awareness, you won't get close. But no, it doesn't mean that they are not hackable. Okay? It's just the matter that you haven't thought of a way to entice the user to click on a link or open an attachment. But it's gonna happen. And if they say that that should not happen, no, it's not gonna happen to us. Okay? Check out SolarWinds. No? If you remember their breach, they were blaming the intern who set up a public system with a password of SolarWinds 123. But that's BS. Okay? You cannot blame the intern for doing that. Why is your policy allowing the intern to actually do that in the first place? They should not have occurred in the first place. So it's their fault. No? You cannot put that blame on the intern. A policy and control should have been there in place. But first is very basic. A password policy. If you have a password complexity policy, this should not occur. Second, why is that service publicly exposed? It did not go to proper channels for opening up that service, having a vulnerability scan, which should have caught this one, or even pen test, no? But no, they were putting the blame on an intern. But do note of the term, no? It was a former CEO, sorry, hindi na siya yung CEO. And again, it's only a matter of time before an organizational is breached, no? And for the most part, if you have a big enough machines in your environment, I would say maybe 1,000 boxes, and you don't have any of these, MFA for VPN and email. Which org does not have MFA for email? No one? Okay, reverse the question. Which org has MFA for VPN and email? Okay, nice. So those who did not raise their hands did not. Now again, basic security control in 2023. If your email and VPN does not have multi-factor authentication, go to your organization on Monday, check out your login logs. Right? Chances are there are some from other countries who are already fished and already in your network. Okay, again, 2023, you should never have your email and VPN be in production without MFA. So even OTP or authenticator via SMS, that works. It makes it harder for threat actors to get in your organization, and it makes red teamers cry. Kasi it's another step. But no, it could still be hijacked. No? If you've heard of Evil Engine X that does proxy attack. No? Create a good story, send a link. If they click on that, it's going to be a login page, no? But it's asking for the same username, password, and OTP. And based on our experience, if the user already entered their password, they would most likely provide the OTP. And with Evil Engine X, it's proxy to the real site. And you're just basically collecting for the token after the successful session. No? And some caveat when doing that, if you do red teaming. Do note for geo-blocking. So we were tasked to breach, again, legally, a bank early this year. We set up a phishing email. It was a good pretext. We had them whitelisted, so they have good security controls now. But when people started clicking and logging in, we found that our session wasn't going through. And one control that saved them somehow was they enabled geo-blocking. You could only log in from the Philippines, and our phishing server was unfortunately in Singapore. So when we realized it, around 80 accounts has passed. It's like, oh crap. We hope the next batch would push through. Okay, we set up a proxy in the Philippines, and then yes, it was allowed. We were able to get in. But that's 80 account that was down the drain. No? But luckily, the second batch, we were able to catch a VP for IT, assist-ad, and an incident responder. So then we see the SharePoint. Hey, there you are. No? And you could see even the SOC alerts, no? If we're gonna get detected on that. No? And on some instances, if you could even take over their chat. I think on one scenario, we were able to send a phishing email. One of the security guys detected it, and they sent a message on the organization that there's a phishing message, please don't click on this link. Then you actually see one guy claiming that, yes, I did see that message, I did not click on the link. And while we're reading the chat on Microsoft Teams, like, how could you not have click on the link when we're reading your chat? Anyway, Um, on one IR that we work on, similar scenario, they didn't have MFA on their email, and same, no? The security team detected it, and they sent a broadcast message, similar scenario, and they claim that there's a ongoing phishing, please change your passwords. And I think that's a mistake. They should have turned on immediately the MFA when they didn't have it. What that actor did was, they found the email. They know that if that user changed the password, they're gonna get kicked out of that session. Right? And they're after business email compromise. There's a payment of around 40 million pesos that's gonna get shoot out soon. And if they lose that access, they would miss that payment. So what the threat actor did was, they deleted that mail. Okay? They recreated that email, same email, but now they have this line. Okay? We are being compromised, there's a phishing attack, we need to change your password, please use this password. And guess what? That was successful. The user believed that it's the InfoSec team telling me to use this password. So she did the password reset, the InfoSec checked. Okay, password reset, so it's all okay. No? But of course, it was dictated by the threat actor, no? So they were able to get back in. I mean, you wouldn't think that it would work, but it's just a matter of your how creative you are, no? And doing stuff like that. No? And again, the definition of APT, right? It's created. No? It's not advanced persistent threat. No? It's Asian persistent threat. It's an Asian threat after still in that. I think that one's Russia. It's still Asian. Right? So that's MFA and VPN. Again, it's 2023. We should be advocating in our organization application control, no? And website control, if we could. That's next step. Application control is having application whitelisting on what software could run in your system. I think this is 10 times better than EDRs. Sorry, CrowdStrike. Somewhere there, right? Because whatever system or tooling that the threat actor uploads, no? Or even the red team uploads in your system, if it's not on the allowed list, it's not going to execute. And it's going to notify the security team. So, again, we have a saying in security, right? Prevention is ideal, but we all know that's not possible. But detection is a must. The moment something goes wrong, someone should be alerted, and we should be able to do that. And, well, the goal of the red team is not to be detected. If we are not detected, we should now inform the blue team on what we did and how would they catch us. No? So that's the feedback between these two teams. And at some point, that becomes a purple team. And again, we want to discuss in assumed breach or disgruntled employee scenario. And there's a good justification talk from Mike Saunders of Red Siege. There's a slide here. But if you really need to discuss, when you're doing red teaming and they don't want the assumed breach, just explain to them that this happens. And if you have a good enough workstations on the environment, chances are there's already a compromise if you don't have these basic controls. So if there's a slide that you want to take a note on this talk, yeah, it's a red teaming talk, but this is the control that would prevent you from a lot of attacks. Right? And red team attacks. Okay? They would cry the moment that they have this. But you were mentioning that MFA could still be harvested, no? Using Evil Engine X. So, what's your solution there? So far, the only solution that we have for now is YubiKeys. Right? It's the universal two-factor keys. It's hardware-based. I have it on my laptop. On our organization, we disabled SMS and authenticator-based two-factor. It's just YubiKeys. Because with YubiKeys, if you register into your sites, G Suite, Office 365, even your personal Facebook, Twitter, you eliminate the decision for the human to decide if that site is a phishing site or not. Right? I mean, yeah, they click on the link, it's a phishing page, they send the username and the password, the key will not perform the challenge and response because the domain is a mismatch. If you could put it that simply. Right? So again, you are trying to eliminate the decision for humans to determine if that site is a phishing or not, because we all know that would fail. Right? And given the size of organization, this is a 2,000 to 3,000 peso investment per user. Looks expensive. But if you could remove the SWOT of credential harvesting attack, I think that's worth it. And you could sleep better on it. Of course, they could still send malware, no, and their users would execute it, but that's another issue. Hopefully, your EDR would be able to catch that, or you have application control. And if they do not believe assume breach scenario works, no? Sabi na, hindi ko naman tayo na-hack or something, no? Tell them the story of Smartmatic, no? If you remember, right, last year, this guy, a contractor, had full admin privilege on his laptop and was colluding with threat actors, locals, that he would be provided with 50 to 300,000 pesos and some security training materials. Just allow them to install a remote access tool on his laptop. I know, I'm not sure who's, what's the term, stupid enough to allow that, no? And allowing a threat actor to use your host, no? That would point back to you very easily. No? But surprisingly, it took 726 unauthorized login accounts before it wasn't actually detected. No? The data was not in the media, hence they tried to look for it. So that says that this organization never had monitoring in the first place. And when they got the laptop, the NBI got the laptop, it was fully encrypted. They cannot get any data out of it. So it was full admin. For a job order, no? Employee having full domain admin, full local admin access with VPN, unrestricted on the organization, that's actually bad. No? And yeah, show them this. It's assume breach. It will happen. If it's not from the outside, it's someone internal that might do damage. And yeah, I mentioned this, no? When doing scoping for red team, you are time-bound. No? Do know the difference. Real threat actors, they don't have any restrictions on time. They would want, if they would want to get into the organization, bababara ka niyan, they would be able to get in. So again, what consists of red team time? Typically, you don't want to get 80 to 100% of your time just doing initial access, so you could do assume breach scenario. And if you have infrastructure for that, no, the creativity to deploy pretext for phishing email, SMS, or going to the organization, that takes some crafting too. And you need to coordinate that, no, with what we call the white team. So I'll introduce another team. The white team is the handlers, no, those organization that is authorized to do it. So, authorized to conduct red team in white team. Kasi if the white team consists of janitors, no, they are not in the proper position to dictate na magkakaroon tayo ng red team engagement. So it should be on the C-levels or head of IT. Infrastructure development for red teaming also takes time. There is Terraform to help you with that, para scripted na. But the moment you try to do buy domains, no, lookalike domains, expired domains, especially new domains, no, you need to age it a bit. Okay, and then you need to send scripts, no, create scripts to send emails so that domain would look lively for reputational checks, no, the moment you send your actual phishing email. So again, time-bound red teaming engagement. And with the scope, now be careful with the scope. Do not be over-eager beaver, no, sa scoping, because you don't want to end up like the coal fire guys, no, where they did physical pen test in the Iowa courthouse. And when they were reviewing the scope, no, they were caught, no, and when they were reviewing the scope, that was not included in the scope. No? So it was a legal battle. Now what do? We engage you for our red team, but getting in physically to the organization and deploying your malware on the workstations is not part of it. So again, be careful with that. It has to be defined. If it's out of scope, it's out of scope. Do not touch it. And on the Philippines scenario, at least, no, so we do have some foreigners, so I'm not sure if this applies to you. Physical red teaming is a bit dangerous because you have guards with shotgun. No? In other countries, they don't have that. No? If the guard is you look suspicious of the guard, you might get shot. No? So you might want to include a bulletproof vest and health insurance, no, for that matter when you're doing physical red teaming. But yeah. For entry points, no, cloning badges, and typically you have a white team guy, no, some nearby, no, or at least within phone call away in case anything goes wrong. On some instances, we got caught. Okay, you have a get out of jail free letter, right? That dictates that yeah, this is part of the team, so you could assist, please assist me, blah blah blah. So we got caught at some point. I have two letters. One is the real letter, another is a fake letter. Just to test if they would verify it. So we can give the fake letters to the head of security. It's like, okay, maybe red team engagement, no? But this might be fake. I'm gonna call the number. So I called the number on the fake get out of jail letter, but it's my friends, no? Receiving the call and saying, yeah, that's right, please assist them and give them any necessary access that they need. So we got into the data center, no? With the help of the head of security. Thank you. Anyway, so speaking to it, starting a career in Red Team. Again, this is not a basic entry-level task. You need a lot of fundamentals, and I do get asked most of the time. One, I want to go into pen test Red Team offset. No? Which is the best OS for me to learn? No? Windows, Mac, or Linux? Yes. Yes, you need to learn all of it. I've seen in the past a very, let's say, techie guy who hates Windows, only touches Linux. He's on a pen test. I was just an observer. He was able to exploit a box, Windows back then, 2003 box, and he was presented the C prompt, C:/, and it's like, okay, and doesn't know what to do after that. The shell. But he was so into Linux that he never bothered to study Windows. And guess what? Most enterprise, all enterprise for that matter, runs on Active Directory. And that enterprise doesn't have Active Directory, do not go to that organization. Sorry if may masagasaan. You cannot possibly manage a lot of computers without a domain controller properly. So if you don't have it, deploy it. If you don't want to deploy it, move to another job. It's a taking time bomb. Chances are you have local admin that's the same across all workstations too and servers. So yeah, easy lateral movement. Fundamentals: learn Linux, learn Mac, learn Windows, learn Python. There's any programming language that's very applicable to security, it's gonna be Python. Of course, if you use Metasploit, it's gonna be Ruby. So, but yeah, most tools are in Python anyway. Learn scripting, Bash, ZSH, and scripting in Windows, PowerShell. Right? You need to learn PowerShell. It automates a lot of stuff in sysad and also in red teaming. Right? So you need to learn that. And of course, computer networks. Could you imagine a red teamer who doesn't know how an IP address and DNS works? No, not gonna happen, right? In security, not only in red team, we need to read a lot. Now, if you're not into reading, this field is not for you. Unfortunately, let's put it out there. And guess what? This is the only way humans install software in their brain, right? You need to read, you need to experiment. Yeah, if you don't like reading blogs, books, or anything, this is not for you. Yeah. Next, we need to have a playground. No? So there are cloud free tiers. I mean, they're working now. You should have some sort of debit card so you could instantiate some cloud environment. If you don't want cloud, there's free AWS, free GCP. You could experiment on your home network. It is a mini network. One of the things that I ask for if I do the interview, how did you set up your home network? Because what? You are IT, chances are you are the IT guy of the house. So if you did not do anything to secure it, then what are we talking about here? Should have at least upgraded the firmware, changed the default password, and ensure the WPA2. If you have client isolation wireless network, turn it on. So those stuff. Best if you upgrade to MikroTik or Ubiquiti and then manage everything from there. And then, of course, you want a playground, virtualization platforms. It's easy to access it now. No? Not unlike in the 90s. No? Sorry, I'm dating myself. No? Wherein you have to have a lot of hard drives to switch various OS, but now you have VMs. No? Spawn your OS, Mac OS, spawn your Linux, spawn your Windows, it's there. Okay? Authorized sandbox, if you're in a corporation and they allow you to experiment, that's good. Lucky for me, I have the whole university in Quezon City that I could play around with no issues, on downtime because it's not operation and it didn't cost much downtime, just a few. Okay, but it's authorized. Sandbox, authorized sandbox, definitely not your neighbor's Wi-Fi. Should not experiment on it. You should not scare your neighbors. Okay, yeah. Next, find a mentor, a good one. Okay. This step could mean a very profitable security career or jail time. It depends on who your mentor is. So I was lucky enough to be taught. No? This one, not sure if you know these two guys. Egypt and Mubix of Rapid 7, Metasploit. Got Vivek no, of Security Tube. Thomas Otter. No? First time I met Vivek, he was teaching wireless class in DEF1. And Thomas is the creator or maintainer of Aircraft NG. So it was celebrity. Then this one, I did iOS exploitation class in Kuala Lumpur. This is Pod 2G. I'm not sure if you still know him. One of the early jailbreakers at that time. So I was asking him to sign my iPhone 5. And he was like, what? Just sign it. I'm gonna put it in the machine and sell it at some point. Anyway, fundamental again. Profitable career, jail time. Depends. Ultimately, in a few years, no, they said, no, in 2 years, the jail ex-convict would be security consultant. You might take it 10 years, no, on a legal way. Not sure. Next, if you are somewhere there, no, accept apprentices too. I'm not sure if you would believe, no, but teaching someone skills, no, it also reinforces your knowledge. So it goes both ways, no, and you're forced, especially with kids nowadays. No, if you come to class unprepared, they would teach you alive. They have their Wikipedia and Google at their desktops, and if you say something wrong, they're gonna Google. Sir, that's wrong. Okay, so you need to come prepared. No, it's not like before our professors. No, they would just widow everything, and even if the equation is wrong, everyone would just accept it because you cannot validate it online. No? Now they have Google, ChatGPT, and for you. So yeah, this is my former class in UP previously, having their CTF. And I'm torturing them, if you know this YouTube, Epic Sax Guide and ours. So unless someone gets the flag, that song is not gonna stop. It's gonna replay in their mind. So, and by the time I stopped the song, they were like, please play the song. My routine is off. So accept apprentices, right? And teach them well, right? Next is, you're starting to code, you're trying to learn, start a project, contribute to open source. This one quite old exploits in Metasploit. No? It's a web-based one, so it's cheap. And sometimes you go to Red Team or Pentest engagement, and they would say that one is your price at 3 times more than this one. You're both gonna use Metasploit anyway. It's like, okay, download the Metasploit code and search my name, Flex. Okay, you got your exploit code there, so okay. Anyway, join contests. Even if you don't know shit, you would learn a thing or two, okay, and then come back next year with a bang, right? And used to be we were really very shy on joining contests now, but when we started going DEFCON, we joined forensics contest. It's more of that network forensics contest. It's a live one. It's my teammate Ian, I think somewhere here. Then of course you come back even if you lose, you didn't get it. Improve your skills, improve your tooling as with life. Okay, come back with a bang, and then hopefully you win it the next time. So this is us winning. No? The different teammate. No? Yes, I know it's 2016. There's a hype. I'm not excuse. My teammate Siege is from the back. Okay, so he chose the teammate. Anyway. Okay, so yeah, it's not an instant win. It took us 6 years of pain, suffering, and lots of money to go to DEFCON to be able to do this. So it's not an instant win. And actually, I'm sure, you'll be surprised now that we did actually win a black badge at DEFCON from the Philippines. Not a lot of people knows about this because there's a lot of political issues, especially with our name. Big name, so just want to keep it quiet. It's just we got it anyway, so there's nothing to prove. So there's that. So trainings and certifications for Red Team. Do note, certs is just really a paper, right? It's the experience that gives it credibility. Right? I could have a lot of sans cert, but I assure you 1/3 of it I'm not actually using it anymore. Right? So I cannot do it hands-on, but I know the concept is possible. At least that what's being. And the kids at my red team, no, they would be able to perform a task in an hour that it would take me now 8 hours to do it. So again, if you're not using it, you're going to lose it. No? So let's put it out there that there's some discussions on whether certs and trainings are valuable. Trainings, of course, and certs, you learn something, and that's what you're after. And my take, a gatekeeper for red teaming would be OSCP. The price is just right. It's not as expensive as the other certs. No? That would take you 600,000 right now for a SAN certification, and you're still here. You have to fly in with hotel. No? But this is just right with the price. Might look expensive, especially for those starting up, but have your organization sponsor it for you. Don't pay for it out of pocket. Why is it good for red teaming? It teaches you Kali. So that's the main part. Web applications, some basic exploit development. Gives you a methodology on how to do stuff. Test your documentation skills. Do note of this item. What the company is actually buying from a red team or a pen test engagement, it's the documentation. You make a shitty documentation, it gets passed around, your reputation is shitty. Right? You make a good one, it gets passed around, and then your reputation is good. Okay? It's how you document, how you present your findings, and of course, it's how do you propose to fix this. The recommendation part is a big factor for you. So, at least this one gives it to you. So, and I say, OCP, again, red teaming is not an entry-level job. No? You need some fundamentals. And if you could get OCP, this would somehow give you a benchmark that, I could do stuff and I could do more. No? And over your course of red teaming career, you could now take a look at this certification map from Paul Jeremy. It's a lot, no? For 93. I could map it out, no? At least for mine. I did it. I didn't actually take OSCP, but I have a lot of SANs. And if you want red teaming, it's actually the OSXX certification that's actually good. But what works for me was some of my management and BFIR and testing skills came into play. Since when you do red teaming, it's not a specific system. It's not a web app, it's not a mobile app. It's the entirety of the environment towards your goal. Is it a data? Is it a database? Is it intellectual property? If you haven't noticed by now, it's very different to test mobile apps from a web application, even though they're similar. No? Different components you can test. And if you plug in wireless, well, you have 802.11, you have Bluetooth, you have Zigbee, you have cellular, and if you want to test networks and infrastructure, that's again a different animal. So you could get bits and pieces of those and ensure expertise in the future, then that would be very good for your career. No? So towards the end, some stories. No? Do I need to be an expert? Not really. You will learn it in the job. You just need to have yung learning, hunger for learning of this in this field. No? For example, we got this saying, Macs are secure, it doesn't get infected with viruses. You know that's false. That was an advertisement maybe 15 years back from Apple. On one of our engagements, we were able to breach a Mac. And this also applied to Linux. No? So I have this prepared script wherein I would I would start SSH, I would open up port 22, and I would insert an SSH key on that box. And while we were detected by the security team at some point, and they reset the password. Guess what? SSH key does not care about your password. And who here have audited authorized keys in SSH? No one audits SSH keys na authorized na list. No? You could see 15 of those, no one wants to touch it because some of those might be in production and you don't want to be the guy who deleted it. And if you could insert your key somewhere in the middle, Okay? And they don't have file integrity monitoring, they need to just modify them. This is your easy backdoor back to the system. Again, you don't need to craft a very sophisticated implant. If this works, 7-liner script, why wouldn't I use it? No? We've done implants now using TeamViewer and AnyDesk, especially if you do this one, OODA loop, no? So observe, orient, decide, and act. When we got into organization, we found out they were using a lot of AnyDesk. Right? And if you install an AnyDesk on one of the machines, they wouldn't know if it's legitimate or not. But we are in control of that AnyDesk. Even though they cut off all external services, well, AnyDesk is falling out. We're able to get back in. And they haven't figured out which box is a legitimate one, which box is us, no, as a red team. So, let me tell you a story. Last story for this talk. No? We were penetrating a utility company. No? Few of those. Anyway, we got into one of their boxes by exploiting a web application vulnerability. So there was this SQL injection vulnerability, and Topher was with them. He was trying to do blind SQL injection to get the database. And you know that's very time-consuming and a lot of requests. We're actually hoping that we won't get detected in time. And fortunately, they did have an IDS, but we were hitting them on HTTPS. So the IDS is seeing encrypted traffic. So we're actually just passing through. And they misconfigured their control at that point. And based on our computation, it will take us 15 hours to dump the database. And then somebody just run the tool, start the dumping. I was just browsing the sites, and apparently I hit on a /backup folder with directory listing. And then I found a backup that was created a week ago. And I was asking that, okay, I have a dump here, so how much information are we expecting? Around 300 meg. Right? And then we saw that's around 270 meg. So good enough, recent. Downloaded it, and then we compared the table that was already extracted with the dump. It's the same. I was like, okay, you don't have to do that anymore. It's easy. Again, you don't have to be advanced. You just have to be lucky, I guess. So we got the database. There's a user there with an MD5 hash, easily cracked with TheJanitor. So we were able to get into web application, right? And we were thinking, okay, this seems to be the admin user. I don't think he's gonna use the same username and password on SSH, right? So we just have to try. Log in, SSH, boom, shell prompt. It's like, oh, okay. And maybe he's not using sudo with password, sudo su. It did work at least, right? And then we checked the kernel patch level. It was recently updated 2 days ago, so there's no previous escalation exploit that we were gonna work. But here's where the creativity comes in. So we were checking the system, figuring out how to get root because we want to access the source code and the keys. And apparently it's only viewable with the root user. When we checked the process list, we saw them, the user, logging in and sudoing to a directory and executing a Java file, something.jar. And on my backend, it's like, okay, the user is actually sudoing and the terminal is actually live, it's on session. Right? So the creativity part comes in, what if we could create a sudo program that would just harvest the password that's going to get typed? Okay, put that bash alias for sudo. It's not going to execute the real sudo. It's going to read the terminal, put it on a temp file in /temp. Okay, eject the program, delete the alias, so that then we're going to just put out an error message, right? And then delete the alias, and then hopefully the user would come back and then put the password, and then well, the alias does not exist at that point, so that's what we're hoping. We're figuring out what the user would do when he logs in. So we're recreating his path. So we created a bash script for a fake sudo that does that. And initially we realized a mistake. Topher was developing it on Ubuntu, and they are running on CentOS. So it's a different messaging. So we almost got caught with that. So we thought, wrong OS, okay, wrong distribution. Create one from CentOS, and then we managed to make it work on the system. We installed the alias. Guess what? We have the privilege to kill his session because we are that user. So we kick him out, of the network, and then we installed the alias, and we were waiting for an hour. So like, oops, it's Friday anyways. Probably not gonna work, but we tried. So we just left the system. And Monday, we came back. We checked the temp directory. Guess what? There's our root password. So the SU bang, enter the password, okay, root. Get the credentials, get the keys. We were able to take over of that control system. Easy. Again, if you could think of that step, no, there's nothing magic about it. It's you are trying to recreate the steps of what would the user do, and could I inject myself in that process and grab something, what we can, basically escalate our privilege to our objective. So it worked. On some scenarios, we were able to compromise an admin workstation. They have password managers that is encrypted, so we cannot really just get the database and extract all the passwords. So similar to that learning, this is I think 2 years after. We were able to compromise a workstation. We got the password database. We cannot open it. We don't know the master password. Guess what? Metasploit, we just wait for the idle time to be minimized, because that means the user is on the workstation, right? They're using the keyboard and mouse. And we injected our keylogger and close the password manager, right? Basically intentionally crashing it. And put yourself, again, mindset, focus. If you are the admin, what would you do if your password manager is standing close? Business as usual, software has errors. Double click the password manager, prompt for the master password, and guess what? We were waiting for that master password. And once you type that master password, we got the database anyway. Keys to the kingdom. We are the admin of that entire infrastructure. Simple. Okay? Nice. 1 hour, sorry. So with that, we want you to be in red team. Okay? I'm spilling some secrets because we cannot handle everything. We want everyone to be aware. More red team means more secure infrastructure for different organizations, which we do use, and we want that. And again, it's an arms race. Give us more challenging organizations to penetrate. So yeah, hope you were entertained. I do have 2 T-shirts for Q&A from the Red Team Village for questions that I could answer. Yes, slides will be shared. Yes, sir. Gusto mo lang T-shirts eh.
Actually, as preference, kasi OCP is quite pricey nga. Are there any alternative na you can suggest?
I would say try yung mga try hack me and hack the box. It would give you some sort of it's not a certification, but sometimes organization will consider that as experience.
Right. How about certifications alternative to
The others I know are a bit expensive. EJPT maybe or RPT. Okay. But the cost, it looks expensive now when you are entry level, I think, or first 5 years experience. It really looks expensive. If you're gonna cash it out of your pocket, no? But again, entice your organization to pay it for you. And when you're studying, paid time to study pa, no? It's not. I mean, if you are into InfoSec talaga, no? I'm sure what you do after 8 to 5, that would define you in the next 20 years. No? So, if you magbababad na kayo na Netflix and chill or Viva Max, then that's all. Yes, sir. T-shirt. May kala ko may size. So, kaya mo na lang ako may size. Yes, sir. Ay, landed ba? Ito yung landed question natin. May pinag-usapan tayo kami.
What drove you to teach or...
Okay. Teach. I subscribe to the philosophy that if you do teach, aside from you gaining experience and mastery of that subject, I would want other people to learn about security. At least that's how I started in UP. So when I was teaching in UP, I was already in, not sure if you've heard of Chica. Philippines, SMS1. So I was the director for information security there. And what our experience was, we have a lot of good developers from various universities, even the top three, even the not on the top three. They're good developers now. But what I did found as a InfoSec lead was they don't know security. They don't know shit on security. So all those APIs, all those systems that they're putting into production, by the time it comes to us, there's a lot of vulnerabilities. And I remember the story of the that a while ago. That's us getting the flag of not really giving our go signal, right? Because there's a lot of vulnerabilities. So we thought that we need to shift left. If we teach them security, it's less issue for us. And typically, now, if they are a good developer, if they have an SQL injection at one point, they would know mitigations on how to do it the next. If that developer is a repeat offender, I would ask the project manager to fire him. It's going to be a headache anyway. Once, yes, but hopefully we catch them before production. 2, 3 times, it's the same vulnerabilities, then something's wrong. So what we did was we did our secure coding lectures, how we did the testing. They even have this concept that as long as HTTPS is not going to get intercepted, right? You all know that. We all know that's wrong, right? So and on now mobile apps, no, if they obfuscate, it's not going to get found out. You just wait for the call, and you could modify it in transit anyway. So I think that's my motivation. Even though they don't go to security, if they have security knowledge, the systems and components they're going to develop would be secure and basically improving everyone else's lives. It's a bit melodramatic already. I'm not sure you're large, but you could have them changing. And you? Anyone else? I don't have any more shirts, so, but just in case I'm along without any shirts. If you want some shirts, there's a competition. The very basic ones, to medium to hard on the Red Team Village, they will give you shirts if you answer some of their grades. So, yeah. Questions, comments? Violent reaction? Pag-complicate sa bahay.
What can you say about Pentera? They're offering one click for an application for pen testing.
I haven't used them, so not much, but it does solve some part of the security testing. But as mentioned, I haven't seen an automated solution that could do logic checks. It's very hard to do. They might inject AI machine learning, but all of that's just tested if statements, right? So, I'm just joking. Or ako yung data scientist din, so suntokin ako sa labas. Anyone else? Comments, suggestions, violent reactions? T-shirts, Red Team Village. Questions on field help. Yes. Hello.
Doon sa maturity model, so for organizations who would be conducting penetration testing of their assets, give you ideas.
Yes. Yes, this one. Yes, they typically need to do this step by step. Okay. As in, again, it doesn't make sense that you'll have a red team if you haven't even done a pen test on the organization first. And typically, red team would be third party. And, I mean, we all know that. Papa-pen test tayo, papa-red team tayo. No? Nag-i-scan muna tayo sa loob. The findings is not a simple password 1, 2, 3. And we get the money, we pay them. Right? Kasi they're gonna look for logic issues that we haven't found. Right? So, yeah. And again, there's a link from the site that I was site for this explanation of this hacking maturity model for details. Okay. Questions? Comments? Okay, so thank you for your time.